Good morning, everybody. It's the day after the Oscars. We are here. I'm here with Tyler Coates, returning guest, streaming live on Riverside for our post-Oscars episode. So you're hearing this in your podcast feed. If you're joining us now live, welcome. And hello, Tyler. How you doing? You sound good. It doesn't sound like you stayed out quite too late.
Good. I've been practicing talking because I think when I said hello to the producer, I heard like this growl come from my mouth because I was out late. I got home just after midnight. I was at the Neon Party for the whole show. I got there around 3:30 and then left at like 11:30. So
you know, here's a question that I didn't ask you or anyone at the Neon, because I was also at the Neon Party after the Oscars, where Anora won 5 of its 6 nominations. Was Sean Baker and Samantha Kwan's dog present at the Neon Party, or did the dog have to stay home?
No, in fact, I did hear, and I hope I don't get in trouble for passing this along, they were a little late because he had to walk the dog. Like, I heard many publicists being like, Sean's walking his dog. He's not here.
Extremely charming. Like, you know, the Faye Dunaway photo the morning after the Oscars in the lawn chair. Like, there's something about like a walk, like having your dog's leash in one hand and all 4 of your Oscars in the other arm.
I always wonder who the star of the Variety morning after cover will be, and it would be great if it was Sean and his dog.
And all 4 of their Oscars. So, we are here for our, I feel like a loopy morning after the Oscars podcast is always, like, generally captures the vibe of it, because there is this, like, you know, I was like on my way home from the Neon Party around the same time as you, as midnight. And it was just like all of this just happened, like a whole lot of things. And like, then all of a sudden you sit back, you're like, wait a second, Flo, what an Oscar. Yeah. Oh my God. Like, it's so hard to wrap your head around all the things that you witness in a single night. So you watched the Oscars from the Neon Party. You actually got to watch way more of what happened on television. I was inside the Dolby for the first time ever. I did the thing that I never thought I'd be, the person who like watched a lot of the Oscars from the bar, but it turns out that if you're standing in the bar, that's when you see like Kieran Culkin wander by, or like a spontaneous burst of applause when like the people from No Other Land show up. So like, it really is the place to watch things happen. So I missed a lot. So I'm going to try to lean on you as much as I can. There's a little bit of blind leading the blind here.
Yeah, it was, again, you're at a I've never been to an Oscar party where it's like hundreds of people. So, I mean, like lots of chatter. I did my best to pay attention, but you know.
Well, we should say before we get started into the results of the Oscars that you are due for some congratulations. You were not eligible to win our Oscar pool, we decided, but you came in second place in the Prestige Junkie Oscar pool. Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's a total surprise to me because my picks a week ago, which is when I did that and completely forgot to go back, I was really going with my gut. Like, I picked Mikey Madison, apparently. Last night, I was expecting Demi Moore to win because I was just like, okay. Once again, I should have gone with my gut. The same thing happened last year with Emma Stone, where I thought it was going to be Lily Gladstone. Because I think it's a great example of like how people get really wrapped up in these narratives and what the precursor awards mean. Yeah. And sometimes they mean nothing.
Yep.
Another publicist walking around the Neon as soon as Adrian Brody won, shouting, SAG doesn't matter. SAG doesn't matter. And then lo and behold, what happens 10 minutes later? SAG really doesn't matter.
That's really funny. Your gut is something that I feel like in the early parts of Oscar season, you can say like, look, I think we can all say that Robert Zemeckis' Here is not a real contender. You know, you like kind of picking the obvious wheat from the chaff, and then you get to this point of the season, and like so many people who we know were like, "What if it's Fernando Torres?" Like, I don't know. Like, I was standing in the lobby at the Dolby, and when I'm Still Here won international feature, which is a little bit of an upset, someone was like, "Oh, I don't know. It's not looking good for me anymore. I think it's Fernanda." And I was like, I don't think those two things mean the same thing, but it's really hard to tell what's real. Hard.
And this year was especially hard because last year, it was just Oppenheimer down the line. We just knew it. It was just a behemoth. Yeah. I think that this year, I think Anora really captured a lot of people's hearts because exactly what Sean Baker talked about in his speeches.
Exactly as Neon told them to do in their ads.
Yeah, I mean, it is an incredible indie film, and it's been a while since we've seen something like that. achieved this, but also at the same time, I've been reminding people this is Sean Baker's like 10th movie, something like that. So like he's put in a lot of work. He is someone who is a champion of film. He loves movies, and like that comes across. And I think that this was just sort of like, this is his time. It's sort of the opposite of what we think about with like actors when we're celebrating someone's career. Where I think for a director or writer like this, it's someone who puts in consistent work and is finally recognized. He puts in the dues. And that really came across last night.
Yeah, I was like, this is going to be one of many name drops probably, but on the way into the Governor's Ball, I was riding up the escalators at the Dolby with Greg Cuidar, who was nominated for co-writing the Sing Sing script, and was talking to him about how he and Clint Bentley, who've been making movies together for a long time, are doing kind of the smaller version of what Sean Baker has this season, being like, oh, hey, overnight sensation, where have you been? And it's like, we haven't made movies for 15 years, and you just finally noticed.
And their names have been thrown around a lot in the last week with me.
Oh,
because I haven't seen Train Dreams, but everyone is really telling me that like Train Dreams is like that's going to be the top contender.
Yeah,
so
it was very
kind
funny
of exciting.
Being like, "Say guys, you're ready to come back here next year," and they're like, "Oh my god, please let me like go back to making movies for a little bit first."
Exactly. I mean, poor contenders is all I can say.
I know.
They get to sleep longer than we do.
Yeah, I was about to say, they didn't wake up early in the morning to record a podcast the morning after. So before we get into, I will say, so the congratulations to the winner of our Oscar pool, P444UL. I don't know what that name stands for. They got all but 3 correct. So really, like, I don't know that we had any perfect scores in the Oscar pool, which tells you something. And then we had a 4-way tie for second place, and the tiebreaker winner was, oh, hang on, I got to scroll. Sorry, his live broadcasting. Tom E92. So you won the tiebreaker. So like maybe to get into like what was tricky about this to predict. So P444UL got 2 of the shorts wrong. We'll get to the shorts. I'm mad about the shorts, honestly.
Yeah.
And then editing was the only other thing that they got wrong. They went for conclave. And I feel like there was this interesting thing with Anora. Like I went for Anora in editing, but not in screenplay, which was like also turned out to be a dumb decision. But that like, did you have that feeling as the night was proceeding of being like, oh, it's up in the air, I don't know what's going to happen, and then like kind of feeling the dominoes slightly fall into place? Like I feel like with the Neon, that editing win might have been the moment of being like, oh yeah, okay.
I mean, when screenplay happened, everyone was excited, and because screenplay was a really hard category. Original really screenplay was very hard. It was
so
because
competitive.
I was really convinced maybe a month ago that The Substance would get it.
Yep,
and then
I heard that theory a lot.
Okay. And then I was like, okay, maybe it's going to go to Brady because like Sean is going to get director. So like, and it's a big screenplay. The Brutalist is a big screenplay. And then I was like, oh God, I think it's a real pain. Cause like, it's just that, cause my theory for the last year or so, I've written about this last year and this year, Conclave broke this, I think 10-year streak. It's the first writer to win, like not a director. Oh, right.
He was the only non-director nominee across both screenplay categories. Is that possible?
That tracks. That's
crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, obviously there's co-writers on Sing Sing and stuff like that, but every single other screenplay nominee had a director also nominated.
Had a director. No, and that is the trend of the last, I think 19 of the last 20 winners have been a director or a writing team with a director. I think the only solo writer was for The Imitation Game.
Wow.
So, so Conclave sort of like easily picked that up. Not my favorite adapted screenplay, but
was there something about
it's just a really enjoyable, fun movie.
Well, it was one that they obviously liked and didn't win anything else. That was Conclave's one win. So, like, obviously we all had the moment of, like, what if Conclave wins, the SAG win, like, spinning ourselves up around. But it turned out, like, I think that made sense as Conclave's only win.
Yeah. I mean, the BAFTA win, I thought, was like, okay, if Anora doesn't get it, it's Conclave's. But, okay, so the screenplays went by. Editing comes through for Sean Baker. Once editing happened, everyone was like, we got this.
Yeah.
And that was like the vibe really, really got incredible in that room. I mean, it was just really fun to be there.
But do you think they thought Mikey Madison was going to win after that? Even so?
I don't think so. I think that everyone still were expecting to me. I think I posted my clip on Blue Sky, if you want to go find it, of the room reacting to Mikey, because it was truly a surprise. I felt like that was a big surprise.
Yeah.
Because it just was, everyone was tracking to me. And I think also it's been a long time since, especially for Best Actor, Best Actress, for like a young star.
Ingenues don't win Best Actress the way that they used to.
No. And like the trend has been going towards performers who have been putting in their dues, or people who have felt under awarded maybe. I'm thinking, Michelle Yeoh as well, like someone who has been around for an industry veteran, a global icon who finally got this specific recognition. So I think that everyone thought that would be for Demi, but I think, again, I always have to say that the Golden Globes are not real. They just don't predict anything reasonable.
But that speech guaranteed her nomination. And we weren't even sure it was going to happen before that Golden Globe speech.
Right.
Like, and Fernando Torres came from those Globes as well. Like, I do think in like the post game, like, which of our priors do we have to reassess? I do still think do the Golden Globes matter is still a live question, because it has the power to shape things, but not tell you how anybody's going to vote.
Nomination. Yeah, yes, I think it helps for a nomination. Same for Critics' Choice too, because again, these are there's no overlap. I mean, and even when you're thinking about, and I see BAFTA as having more overlap at this point than SAG does, because I think SAG is getting very specific with their picks. I mean,
SAG is just so big too. It's so many people. It's going to be more populous than the Oscars themselves. Right. So for the Demi thing, like I feel like we like narratives in award season. Like that's something that keeps us coming back to it. It's interesting. It's real. It like tells you something about it. And like the Demi narrative, it all made sense. And like on a certain level, it doesn't make sense for Mikey Madison or Adrian Brody to win those Oscars based on narrative. So is that something we're gonna have to like really sit back and be like, look, narrative isn't always it. It is sometimes. That's how Brendan Fraser wins for The Whale. But like, okay, is there a coherent thing we can learn from this?
I don't know. This year has been so unexpected. I think, like, for example, the Best Actress race, this is the first time since the 70s that every single nominee was from a Best Picture film. Yeah. And I've also pointed this out, like Best Actress is the one that veers the most from Best Picture, because again, that, you get the Julianne Moores for Still Alice. You get
well, because girl movies don't matter for Best Picture, obviously, if it's about a woman. Like.
Exactly. I mean, that is absolutely what's true. But absolutely
maybe not
happens.
anymore.
And so,
it's interesting.
Maybe not anymore. I mean, again, the argument I keep saying is that the Academy is getting more and more international. And so I think that is reflecting the taste that is changing. I mean, we're seeing movies like Poor Things and Anora, which are highly sexual, a lot of nudity. I mean, that could have worked for The Substance too, I would say. I mean,
it's true.
It's a bold film.
Not alluring nudity in The Substance. It's all a little unnerving. No.
I mean, none of these movies are really, I mean, the sex in Anora is mostly used for comedic effect until the end. Whereas I feel like Poor Things was a little, jarring, I feel like, because it was so unexpected too. But I think it's sort of reflecting kind of a European sensibility that on the other side of that coin did not work for Emilia Perez. But Emilia Perez had so much baggage. I mean, honestly, the two wins that they got, I think, is what they were going to get the whole time, honestly. Because like they would have won
international, don't you think? Or do you think I'm Still Here was always going to surge like that?
I think I'm Still Here. It was the kind of dark horse contender that came out of nowhere at the end.
Yeah. The Sony Pictures Classic Special. It's what they're really good at.
Yeah. But when people saw it, and like it is the most timely film of the year, I would say, like we can see direct parallels to what's happening in America with what's happening in that film. Yeah. And I think that once, that again, that's what the Golden Globes can do. It can bump a film.
Totally.
It is good for marketing. I remember the year that they canceled it. So, a colleague at THR was like, this is going to screw over all of the movies in January because no one will know what's out there.
Yeah.
And so that's like the best argument for having it, is that it's just kind of good for business.
Well, it also gets you to the meta thing of like, I've talked to a couple like, regular people being like, why wouldn't Wicked win Best Picture? Like, it's really popular. It's nominated for all these things. And I'm like, the Oscars are for Wicked, and they're for including that, but they're also for boosting I'm Still Here and making sure people are aware of that movie. And like that, you got to respect the balance, as The Substance has taught us.
Yes.
And this year's nominees did that, and also the widespread of winners. Like, I think I got the numbers right, that the only Best Picture nominees that didn't win anything were A Complete Unknown and Nickel Boys, which is what a fascinating pair of movies. But that's a good spread. Like, I like it when everything wins something. Like Anora won 5. That's like the most that anybody got. But like there's just shows like a level of care and like a willingness to like boost every film in a different way, which is always what I want to see.
And recognize that every film has something else to offer, I think, there are definitely still surprises for me. Like, I think I did not expect Wicked to get production design. Something happened. Something's weird about production design this year. Like, I don't get why Judy Becker was shut out completely.
Well, you picked him. Looking at your Oscar pool picks, you picked Nosferatu in our pool, which like is would have been a very cool win.
I mean, that was because, again, like the Art Directors Guild went for Nosferatu over
the production design of the movie's incredible.
So I was like, okay, maybe that's going to be something. Again, like that was a week ago, and I was just the last week I was like, okay, I think
changed
that
everything.
I was just sort of like, I don't see how you watch The Brutalist and not recognize how important production design is to that. Like, she did everything.
Because like, it's a movie other than writing it. Production design in some way. Well, and Adrian Brody, you might not have gotten to the end of his speech. Like, I think everyone had taken a nap by then, but he did thank Judy Becker as the real Laszlo Toth at the very end of his speech. So, there was some acknowledgement there.
Right. But that is the thing. I mean, that and Joe Frey for cinematography, which is just still bizarre to me. But
crazy, baffling snub there.
Yeah.
But The Brutalist, let's see, The Brutalist won 3. It won for Adrian Brody for score and cinematography, which is great. Like, that's maybe those are also the 3 that The Brutalist was always going to win. Like there was the period where we thought like maybe it could run through there in Best Picture, but like those wins make sense for that movie, even if production design would have also made sense. I was delighted to see it win for score, even though I didn't predict it. There were so many things. Like, I didn't predict Flo. I thought The Wild Robot was going to win. I was so happy to see Flo win. And I thought The Wild Robot was going to win score. I was all in on The Wild Robot.
Right.
And so both of those, like, it's almost like covering my bases. Like, I predict the thing that, like, I am less, because I like those movies a lot. But so when I'm wrong, I'm like, great, I'm wrong. What a thrill.
Because they're so good movies. I mean, Flo, I will say the Neon group, like, really overjoyed by Flo. And that just means to me, it's a sensibility. Like, that is not a Neon film, but it is in the Neon, like, sensibility, basically. Well, it's an indie film, and it's just... It won a lot of hearts, I think.
The growth of these these upstart distributors, like A24 starts and gets through with Moonlight, and then Neon kind of comes soon after that. And it does feel like Sideshow Janus Films has been around forever, but like they are kind of now emerging. We got Mubi and then Sideshow Janus. It's like the evolution. So I am really interested to see. They backed Flo this year. They did like a really incredible job with it, and I'm very interested to see what they can do in future awards runs like this.
Right. Yeah, and I also think like. Anora is still in theaters here. I mean,
is it really?
They really kept it running for a long time.
Yeah.
In a way that I think is really impressive and shows that they really care about.
Well,
what
Sean Baker has made
saying.
That very clear in his speeches too, talking about how they really gave him the theatrical push that he was asking for.
Right, and like this is they don't want to hear this, but I've been saying this. That's why I think Netflix has the Best Picture win is out of their
never going to happen.
Because their entire business model, it's different for Emmys. I mean, they've been racking up Emmys for years because you're watching TV at home. That's just how you do it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is ironic. They always have me come to their screening rooms where it's the biggest picture, the best sound.
Yep.
And then you watch it at home and they don't look as good. Like, it just doesn't, like the piano lesson did not inspire me the way it did when I saw it in the theater than when I saw it at home.
Yeah.
And I feel very lucky that I got the chance to see that in the movie theater because I think that that is where you should see that film.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Maria, which is a movie I don't even like that much. But the cinematography, it's one nomination. Like, it's glorious. And Netflix made sure I saw it on a big screen. Same with Emilia Perez. Like, it does feel like that. You know, Netflix has eaten Hollywood in so many different ways. But the Oscars have kind of stopped that and been like, oh, guys, you can't get away with this. You can't keep doing movies this way.
Yeah, I mean... And they've done it since the beginning. I mean, Roma winning everything except for Best Picture. Coda beating Power of the Dog. I mean, everyone's like, well, Power of the Dog was tough. It's a tough film. And I was like, yeah, but Coda is, you know,
well, Coda didn't. It's not exactly film. Like Coda like was a barn burner in theaters. Like it's an Apple movie. It was a weird time. Nothing was in theaters.
It was a weird time. But, you know, you look at like The Substance, which again is a movie release, but made so much money because they did a hell of a job distributing that and theatrically. Even Nickel Boys, which is on a streamer, got a theatrical release, a very limited theatrical release.
Everyone except Netflix has made the effort to have people see their movies in theaters.
And, you know, obviously they have to do, you know, the week run or whatever. And they do that. And if you live in New York and LA, you can go see it at a Netflix-owned theater. But it just, I think that business model, that plan is just going to turn off film people. When it comes to giving awards, they'll take the money. They'll, you know, they'll take that big deal. Because
but Netflix isn't giving the big deals the same way they used to either. You know, like they come through, they disrupt everything. They stop handing out money the same way they used to. Like, no wonder people are like, I don't know that we like are gonna hurry to give you Best Picture after all of this. Yeah,
I mean, and you know, it's sort of the doc branch has certainly pushed back on the streamers very hard because what the streamers are interested is not, you know, interested in or, you know, kind of these vanity projects, these biopics that just the doc branch does not vibe with. And I kind of I know that there's a lot of animosity towards that, of just how like closed off and they are,
how clubby,
but like,
the doc branches.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm like, good. Like something kind of has to be. Like they're picking stuff. I mean, No Other Land. That's the reason why people got to see that movie. You know, the reason why they were able to distribute it the way that they did, and people really want to see that movie, and that's why like it's still a shame that no one will pick it up. I mean,
well, I feel like the rumor has gone around now that like it got offers that weren't like as much as they were hoping for, and they kind of realized that self-distribution like maybe was the way to go, which it's the highest grossing of any of the doc nominees. Like, you know, Sugar Cane's on Nat Geo, so it's like different streamer money. But yeah, it does seem to have worked for them. And also like, so that's one of the speeches I haven't gotten to see. Like, I got to go back and watch it. But like, what do you make of the fact that, you know, it wins a year after Jonathan Glazer, like referencing the existence of Palestine made people lose their minds? Like, have things changed, or was that just too much of a runaway success to not win?
Well, I think it's complicated. I think it takes place in the West Bank, and I think Gaza has been front of mind for so many people, and people truly did not know what was happening in the West Bank. I mean, people are very uninformed about what is happening there. It's very confusing. You know, what we are told is not necessarily what is happening. And I think that this is an example of, also it's an Israeli-Palestinian co-production. I think that also helps. That's
pretty major.
Yeah, and I think that like you just can't deny what you see on that film. And I think it really surprised a lot of people who just didn't know how brutal it is there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I still find the Glazer to do so baffling, because I remember when
1 year later, we're still trying to figure it out.
Well, to me, I was like, okay, I did not expect Zone of Interest to get a Best Picture nom, because I was like, okay, this is too arty. People are not going to get this.
That was a very early, like, is there such thing as too weird for Best Picture? Or like, the Zone of Interest walks so the substance could run. Those movies are so similar.
Yeah, but then I was like, surely people didn't understand this film. But then I was like, okay. And then Jonathan Glazer gives the speech, and people reacted the way that they reacted. And I was like, oh, people really didn't understand this movie. Like, they truly, the blinders were right up there in a season, you know, where what was happening was like directly correlated to two other Oscar-nominated films in Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon, and we just weren't allowed to talk about it, you know?
Yeah.
So...
I want to rewind for a minute. Back past Zone of Interest. So I was surprised to realize at some point last night that Anora, if you don't count Coda and Nomadland as like the COVID era, is the lowest grossing Best Picture winner ever. It grossed less than The Hurt Locker, which like had been kind of the previous
even
benchmark.
Moonlight? Because Moonlight was pretty low.
Let's see. So Anora's at 15 domestic. And this is also just, Anora's got 40 worldwide. Hurt Locker had 49 worldwide and 17 domestic. Moonlight got 27 domestic. Moonlight did pretty well. Anora was the smallest budget of all the Best Picture nominees, but also like we've spent a lot of time talking about how Anora was a hit. Like in the current version of movie theaters that we have, like it did pretty well. Like I don't know what the ratings are going to come in and people are going to freak out and all the usual suspects will say the Oscars don't matter anymore. But like I can't figure out how much to make of Anora being such a low grossing Best Picture winner and whether or not that's something we need to be concerned about, or if like theaters have changed so much since The Hurt Locker that 15 million today is like making 50 million in 2009 or something like that. Like, how much do you think it matters?
I don't think box office really matters. I mean, I think maybe at the Producers Guild, maybe they're the ones who really care about that. Anora. They did go for Anora though, and so I think that like. But I mean, that's always been the case. You know, the highest grossing film is never necessarily the one that's going to get it. I mean, last year it was the second highest grossing, right?
Yeah.
You know, Barbie was sort of got the money instead of the awards.
Yeah.
Yes, that is super rare. I mean, I think the first season I really worked in this capacity was, I believe, the 2019-2020 season. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was a huge
hits. That was a good hit.
Parasite
Oscar season
was a huge hit.
Ford v. Ferrari, 1917 was a big hit.
Yeah,
Joker.
but then you still had Irishman and Marriage Story in that mix too. So yeah, I mean, and I remember hearing, you know, when it's a big studio year, then the money is good from the ads, you know, the ad spend. And Neon, you know, does do a healthy ad spend more so than A24 does.
A24 infamously does not, propping the business alive.
Yeah, so, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that really matters. I think it's just like...
The other factor in box office that like it drives me crazy, and I'll be my bugaboo forever. This is a comment we're getting in the live stream from Sean, who said we ended up renting Anora twice because my husband watched it without me, which I find delightful. That Sean, your husband, now has watched Anora twice. Everyone should. That money doesn't count toward anything that we're talking about. Like the amount of people who have rented Anora or have watched Conclave on Peacock or like you know whatever windows that we have that we've collapsed. Like Anora has had like it's still in theaters, like you said, but it's also been available on VOD. That feels kind of like the world that we have. Like some of those windows will last longer if you're Christopher Nolan. And honestly, if you're A24, like Sing Sing wasn't available to rent for like 8 months. Like it went on forever.
That was an A24 decision, I think. Yeah. I mean, I think that they wanted to hold it. I mean, they really didn't start that campaign. That campaign started late, I would say. I didn't see it until, I want to say October, when they first did a Q&A here in LA. And I was sort of like, why couldn't I watch this until
I think
now,
a lot of people who are like Oscar fans wanted to watch it. So like that, you know, the A24 is kind of holding it on the windows, but we will talk about how Anora made 40 million worldwide, but that's just not the real number of how many people have seen Anora. And we just, I don't know how to fix it. I don't know why we don't know VOD numbers. Like if we could just release that kind of thing, but the correlation between box office and what is actually popular gets fuzzier and fuzzier. And I think if people want to feel like that matters, they've got to figure out how to fix that, because it does kind of make me crazy that we don't know what's actually popular. Like Netflix is one problem of it, but like these VOD numbers are such a weird black box to actually tell you how much impact a movie has had.
And I think we have learned too, I mean, Amazon has said this, that like the reason why they still they see theatrical as an important element in propping up their VOD releases. I mean, and I think that's important. I think people recognize that. There are people who like, I can't go to a movie theater, but if I see a movie advertised as if people are going to see it, if I see commercials for it, if I see billboards, but like if I hear friends who've seen it, I will look for it at home. And I think that that's how the home entertainment business has always been.
Well, it's also how like indie films have like existed. Is that like they don't make their money in theaters; they make it in like DVD sales or
and like that's how I found everything. You know, is through watching movies at home.
Yep.
And I think that, you know, that's always, you know, people are always like, and I say this too, it's like there's money left on the table for Netflix to just like take by releasing a Knives Out movie in the theater and making a shit ton of money on it.
Yeah. We'll see if Greta Gerwig and her Narnia thing managed to change things around there.
Well, that's, you know, that'll only be IMAX, right? So
And so
I wonder if like IMAX is like getting roped into footing the bill on production or something.
I don't know. I feel like that drama is going to continue somehow. I mean, this is something when I was talking to Greg Queter on the way into Governor's Ball because Train Dreams got picked up by Netflix, and I was like, look, I saw it on the Sundance Portal. I would love to see it on the big screen. Like he clearly wants people to get to see it big, and it's hard to tell how much film, if Netflix will ever give an inch and make that possible for people.
Right. I mean, I don't think so.
Yeah. Can we circle back to Demi? We were talking about Mikey. We talked about Anora. Like, I do feel like the theme that I heard when I talked to people, it was like, great winners. I'm happy about it. I feel bad for Demi. Like, that was such a recurrent, like, you know, Mikey Madison didn't say that, but like, you know, Mikey Madison's amazing in a movie that the Oscars loved. It would have, I said this before, like it would have been a weird historical footnote for this movie to run away with all these Oscars and for the lead actress to not win.
Right.
I still feel bad for Demi Moore. I really want her to win.
I mean, yeah. I said this last night to many people because I was feeling really proud of myself. I told Tom Quinn, CEO of Neon, at the Virginia Film Festival in October, after Anora was opening night, and then Mikey Madison came out, did a Q&A. And I was like, I don't see a scenario in which she doesn't win this Oscar. Like, it is a truly transformative performance. If you see that movie and then see her do an interview, you're like, that is not the same woman.
Yes.
And then Marianne Jean-Baptiste comes through, and I'm like, okay, she's going to win. Because, like, that's the most those two were the most transformative performances. And I think that does something for people, you know? And I think that is how Mikey won, is that she is not playing herself or anything close to her. And Demi's performance is really good, but, you know, you can sort of look at her in that film and be like, okay, she's playing a Demi Moore type. She's playing someone whose career is kind of having a slump. And, you know, she's aging into a place where she's no longer the star that she once was. And that's sort of how Demi's career has, in the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years, has been.
Yep.
You know, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to feel bad about anyone not winning an Oscar because, like, I think that being nominated for an Oscar is like pretty great, and like
it really is.
Losing an Oscar is still, you know, something I'm never going to do. So So, and I hope, you know, for me, I hope Demi Moore has a resurgence and gets more work, and I hope that people see her as someone who is not only still a draw for people to want to see in a movie. I mean, that's part of the reason that movie made so much money, I think, is because Demi Moore is the star of it.
Yeah.
And she is a big box office draw. She's always been. But I think that, like, I would love to see her get a resurgence in this career and, like, get interesting roles and fun stuff, and like I think that there's still a future for her. I
just feel like I really worried this was her chance. And like Mikey Madison's just 25. This is her big breakthrough moment. Like, you sense that more is coming for her, and it's hard to know what Demi Moore will have available to her. Because like even when, you know, at the peak of her fame in the 90s, when she had all these roles available to her, she wasn't getting taken seriously by awards bodies. So I don't know. But again, like Demi Moore getting an Oscar nomination is something that seemed so impossible a couple years ago.
Yeah, especially for that. I mean, especially for a movie like this. It's like a real achievement.
Yeah.
And you know, I have a very good friend who works at Mubi, and I've told him, like, you have killed it. Like, no matter what happens, like 5 Oscar nominations for this movie, including Best Picture, is just insane.
Enormous. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's just like, it's sort of the thing, like, everyone should be very, very proud and happy with their work, you know, because this was a hell of a season, and people really, really fought hard and worked hard, and also the work was really, really good, I thought. So I don't know. It's just tough, you know.
Like next week, we're going to do this episode of like, what did we learn from all of this? So, you know, we can hang on to your big picture takes. But like, is there anyone who like shouldn't be proud of what they accomplished, or who feel like dropped the ball at the last minute. Like Netflix and Amelia Perez is kind of like a big obvious one. There is like a certain extent to which that was out of their control. But like, is there anyone who needs to have like a truth and reconciliation committee at the end of this and being like, okay, how are we going to not repeat this?
Seeing the headline point out that no one associated with Amelia Perez who won had anything to say about the trans community.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I would say that's dropping a major ball. That's dropping a major ball. And I think that like that says to me, I mean, that movie, I feel like put a whole stain on this season, obviously with the controversy that happened.
Sure.
But also just the way that like Mexican critics were shut down, like trans critics were shut down. And like it just felt like a PR campaign that worked really well, but to what end, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, the question of how much can you take the subset and you turn it into a Best Picture nominee, and that feels like a miracle, but there is the backside of that is Amelia Perez, which becomes like this juggernaut, and then everyone has to look at it and be like, wait, what are we dealing with here?
Because they have the most money. I mean, they have the most money.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That is what it is. And I've written this for my column, like if Netflix didn't buy Amelia Perez, it would never have had this trajectory in any way.
Here's my like real galaxy brain. Like, so Netflix, so Mubi buys Amelia Perez or something, or Neon or something, some smaller, like whatever, like to have it be kind of like the odd French contender, and like Zoe Saldana is amazing in it, and she gets her supporting actress campaign, this alternative universe.
Although
which
she would have run leading.
So,
and they should have.
So
as it
Zoe
turned out.
Saldana still wins her Oscar in this scenario. She like runs through, and we're all very happy for her. And then Diane Warren wins because it doesn't get nominated for 2 songs, and Diane Warren finally wins, and we can all know peace. This is the world in which that could have happened.
Yeah, poor Diane.
Someday
poor
Diane will get it. I know.
I mean, she has to. And I was sort of, I don't want to wish for a Tyler Perry film to win an Oscar, but I mean, come on. I was like, Diane is right there. And
this is the first one to ever get nominated.
Yeah.
First Tyler Perry film.
But I mean, the songs this year were kind of really sad and pathetic, and that's the reason why they didn't even perform them. I mean, Zoe would not be able to perform that. That's part of the reason, I think.
I didn't see the Bond tribute. I saw it like on the screens in the lobby, and I had most people being like, "Why? What are we doing? We're doing Diamonds Are Forever?" Did you watch that? Did you get any more clarity on why that was part of the show?
I think I saw parts of it, and I was like, I don't get this at all. Like, is there an anniversary? Also, the choice to picking a song from a Broadway show for Quincy Jones was a strange pick.
That's a good point.
He's done so much original music for film, and I get The Wiz is a popular movie, but like, come on now.
Yeah, I was waiting to see the Austin Powers Soul Bossa Nova tribute.
Yeah, I mean, they played it as a transition.
I heard it played. What did Margaret Qualley dance to? I now remember seeing her dancing, but I can't remember what the music was.
I don't. It was so loud at the party. I couldn't really pay attention.
Constant problem. A note from the comments about, who needs a Truth and Reconciliation Committee. Apparently, the Hulu live stream was kind of a bugaboo. It dropped out.
Yeah.
I don't think either of us saw that because you were watching presumably it on cable. But yeah, I mean, I'm really glad that the Oscars are streaming. They're going to renegotiate that deal with ABC in a couple of years. I think a lot of things are going to change. So we're in kind of this interesting in-between period where the Oscars are like stuck on terrestrial TV in some way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, in the world where Netflix is very successfully streaming the SAG Awards, you got to ask some questions about what is the way to do this to make it actually function.
Right. Yeah, I guess did it cut off at the 11 o'clock
I think at Best Actress. So I don't know at what hour that will probably right around 11 o'clock.
Okay.
Did the show feel long to you from where you were?
No, because
only when Adrian Brody started talking did it start to feel long.
Yeah, his 6-minute speech. No, I mean, it was a weird thing because, again, I wasn't really paying attention to the show itself. I mean, again, this was the first time I didn't have to write a live recap.
I know.
So I usually don't even get to watch the show. I always had it I had my 2 monitors set up. I had Otter running a transcription live so I could just copy paste.
I have often not watched the Oscars. I've been typing and listening to the Oscars, which is not a good way to do it.
No, they're always in a different window that I can't even see because I have a million things up. Mm-hmm. So it sort of felt like that, but they also started earlier and they still were long. So that was,
I know.
but it felt fun. I mean, I loved I thought Conan had a great monologue. I thought the bits were solid. I loved the costume design bit with Bowen.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
I watched that from the lobby, and when I realized what they were doing, I was like, oh my God, I got to get back there and see this. So that's another thing I got to go back and watch.
But it was just like perfectly, I mean, the Lithgow being like, yeah, I was going to say it was cringe too. Like, it's just so, I mean, Lithgow really great stepped up. Comedy chops. Yeah.
I know. He was doing great. And I love like the costume design thing. And then they did it for production design also. They did like the Fab Five thing. Like, great. Yes. I love that. I don't know if there's someone at home being like, I don't care about these categories, but like their actual effort to shine a light on crafts, like really felt like it worked. I was impressed by that.
And I think that I think especially for, I mean, I love production designers and I'm obsessed with production design. I think that is such a huge part of filmmaking that goes unnoticed, you know? Totally. I mean, they are doing so much, and for sometimes so little money. And I like it when there's a genuine effort on the Oscars to highlight not only obviously the nominees, but what the work is and like how it works and like how you work with an actor with costumes. Like it is it's not like the director tells you what to do. You're working with the actor and figuring that out. And
it's something we get to learn a lot through our work. And it's really cool that they find a way to share that with people more broadly.
Yeah, and I want them to be able to like explain what best sound really means, like what goes into that, how you edit a film. And that, you know, I would rather see that than like random, I mean, I can't believe I would say this, than random musical performances. That's not how it would feel like maybe 10 years ago. But, you know, I mean, the music they're picking these days, it's just, you know, it's like, you know, let's have a tribute to Chicago again, you know? Like every 10 years we'll do another anniversary because the producer of that film is producing the Oscars. You know, it's always, the music choices always feel a little too self-celebratory and not celebrating what we're actually there for.
Yeah, it does feel like, and again, I gotta like go back and rewatch the show, but it feels like we are moving a little bit out of the Jimmy Kimmel, and I really like Jimmy Kimmel as a host, honestly, but he always had this being like, I'm so sorry we're going so long, this is so crazy, what are we even doing here?
Hollywood's
thing to like,
stupid. Yeah,
and to
that's what I loved about Conan's monologue. He ended it with like, obviously right now, why should we be doing this when the city just went through this horrible thing and like America's going through a horrible thing. But the reason why we do it, and I loved what he said, he's like, every year we will do this. Every year you can expect for this. And whether or not people keep watching it, there are people who love this stuff. Because I think it does, and what Mikey Madison said about growing up in Los Angeles but feeling like Hollywood was so far away, I think it's so beautiful. Because I grew up in a tiny little town in Virginia, and like, I still think back, I'm like, how the hell did I get here? Like, how did I get to this place? And the reason is because I used to watch the Oscars as a kid every year. You know, as soon as I could stay up for them, but I would tape them and watch them every morning the next day. Yeah. And that's what got me interested and boosted my love of film. You know, I remember being mad at the Oscars when my favorite movies didn't win. And I think that there's something exciting about that. It brings
you into the world, and the Oscars taking that role seriously of saying we are the showcase for this industry, and we are also like extending an arm to people who might want to be part of this is really moving. Like I thought Conan O'Brien as the messenger for that is not who I ever expected, but he did such a great job with it.
But I like, you know, I think that there's a way to be reverent and irreverent at the same time. And I think it's like you can poke fun at things, but like don't make fun of the reason why we're all here. Yeah. Because there is a reason why we're all here. And there, you know, it is sometimes a nuisance. And I know that there are stars who are like, I would never go if I wasn't nominated. Like, why would I do that?
Sure.
Because it is, you know, it's a work party. That people have figured out how to sell ads around. But
in a mall. You gotta get past Forever 21 to get to the work party.
It's Hollywood's biggest afternoon. I mean, it's not glamorous when you know, on foot.
But then it is. And it brings you back in. Okay, we gotta wrap up. I got a flight to catch. I gotta like go back to normal life.
I gotta go back to sleep.
I gotta figure out how to I got this little chocolate Oscar at the after party. If you're watching a live stream, you can see it, and I gotta like safely transport it home. So that's my task for today. This was really fun, Tyler. Thank you for doing this season with me. I hope we get to continue doing this. Now we get into the there's fun stuff about Emmy season. I look forward to a lot about diving into TV after this, but also, we'll miss the Oscars.
The change from film to TV is always like
it's like packing all your sweaters away for the season, and now it's like, all right, here we go, doing something different. But we'll have plenty to talk about. And thanks for being here and doing this with me.
Thank you for having me. It's always a delight.
This podcast is produced by me and Brett Fuchs. Our theme music is by Dave Gonzalez. Thank you, Tyler, for being here. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, anyone joining us live in Riverside. Thank you, everyone who was part of the Oscar pool. What a thrill. What a great time this has been. I'm so happy that you all wanted to participate in this. This is the first Oscar season we've done with this podcast. I feel like it went great, and I can't wait to do more of it. Subscribe to Prestige Junkie at the Ankler and the newsletter. I'll have a newsletter with more of the details of who I saw in the bathroom line. Maybe that can be my scoop. Find out who I saw washing their hands in the bathroom at the Dolby Theater. We'll be back next week, as I mentioned, and I've got kind of a fun What We Learned from the Oscars podcast episode planned for next week as we wrap the season up fully. So we'll see you back then.